Okay. Okay. Good afternoon.
What's the meeting?
Okay. All right. Good afternoon, and welcome to the first meeting of the year. My name is Mandy Lopez. I'm the Faculty Senate. Also joining us is Professor Fabio Del Piero, who is the Secretary Treasurer, and of course our lovely assistant, Susanna Knoll, who keeps us all in check and things running and corrects me despite myself. So she is she has organized this meeting and everything involved with it. So many, many thanks to her, especially for her assistance with the committees and work over the summer. All right, that said, the time is nigh, the hour is now. It's time to get ready. We have a very busy agenda. Welcome to all those new, welcome to all those continuing, and welcome to the embers of summer. All right, so first up, please. So we're trying to do this a little bit differently. We're all adjusting to our virtual reality and our virtual way of doing things. Please share any proxies or alternates with Ms. Knoll via the chat function. Also, if all guests won't mind, to please similarly sign in via the chat function. And finally, we will take roll by means of sign in. If you are not signed in by your standard moniker, please advise Ms. Knoll so we can know to note your presence at our virtual meeting. All right, first up, are there any public comments, Ms. Knoll? All right, hearing no public comments, we will move on to the minutes. The minutes from our April 21 meeting were previously shared, and you should have access to those. May I please have a motion to accept the minutes if there are no outstanding concerns about content and only minor adjustments and edits or corrections? May I please have a motion? All right, so I see Professor Brooks has made a motion. A second, please. All right, we have several seconds. Thank you very much. So any opposed to accepting the minutes pending minor corrections? All right, seeing none, please feel free to reach out to Ms. Knoll with any corrections or suggestions or other minor changes. All right, next up, our president and provost have very graciously joined us in our meeting today. I will suspend my president's report temporarily to yield the floor. So, President Galligan.
Thank you, Mandy, very, very much, and it's great to be with you. And Mandy, let me continue to thank you and the Faculty Senate leadership for all your very, very hard work throughout the spring, the summer, and as we come back to campus this fall. And welcome to fall 2020. I would say we're all thinking of our students and our faculty and staff, friends, family members in Western and Central Louisiana from Hurricane Laura. I mean, the damage was absolutely devastating. And so I know I don't have to urge you to be sensitive and compassionate, because we've got students from those areas who may have lost their homes and have a whole lot of uncertainty. So our thoughts are with them, and we're undertaking some support efforts as we speak. So hurricanes, the pandemic continues, and we all realize that this is a stressful time and it's a challenging time. And please know that we hear you, we understand your concerns, and we will try to be as flexible and accommodating as we possibly can to support you. So I really appreciate your hard work, your dedication, and your understanding now and always. I also want to thank you all for your participation in the various faculty and staff fora that we had in the lead up to the fall. Maybe one of the bright spots of the pandemic is that we have come together more as faculty and staff, albeit by Zoom, to talk about what's going on, and your questions and your comments have really, really helped us out. So please keep them coming. As I guess we start the second week of class, but really it's the third day of class. So it seems more like the middle of the first week. But Monday, today, Monday, our campus-wide effort is really to try to encourage as many members of the LSU community as possible to get tested for COVID-19. Testing is a critically important part of our plan to monitor the virus on campus and to stay safe. And it's especially important now that the semester is starting. We've contracted with an organization called Relief Telemed, which is a Baton Rouge company, to coordinate and conduct testing. So if you've seen the purple pods on campus, that's them. The state also will have 2 sites on campus. The Relief Telemed, LSU First covers that. So I would encourage you to take advantage of that and get tested. When a student goes, they will ask for insurance information. If the student doesn't have insurance, then that's okay. We're going to test them. So please, I would say, encourage your students as you feel comfortable to also take advantage of the testing opportunities. Our testing capacity is incredibly robust right now. We also have capacity to test through the vet school, and that capacity is increasing and will be increasing through September. So if you haven't gotten a test, go take advantage of it. It's not the brain tickle test. It's the sneeze inducer. I've done it, and it's pretty easy. So one thing, as we test more people, we're going to see the numbers rise. And that's going to cause some anxiety, and it's going to cause some alarm. But I think there's just a few things that we need to keep in mind as we see possibly more positive test results. First is a single statistic doesn't give us a complete picture of how COVID-19 is impacting our campus. And remember, we have 40,000 students, faculty and staff on campus. Everybody is doing the symptom tracker. It's easy, it takes 20 seconds, maybe 30 seconds every morning, and then you get validated, you get approved. It makes me feel good. It's a good way, cup of coffee and approval, and I'm on my way. Because we have so many online classes, we've got less density on our campus, less physical personal density than we normally have. So we think that that's a good thing too. We're prepared to assist students who test positive, much more so than in the spring. First wave is if you test positive or you're in a close contact and you can safely go home, you live nearby, go home. But if you can't, there's spaces on campus and off campus where our students can isolate if they're positive or quarantine if they have had a close contact. Make sure you check out the roadmap to the fall website. I would say take a look at it periodically. We're going to report our numbers on that website. We've had some issues last week during the hurricanes with getting data, but we should be current soon, and we will put the numbers up when we get them. It's also that website's going to provide information throughout the fall. So please check it out periodically because things may change. So we administer tests to as many people as possible. We do our contact tracing, and our contact tracing is twofold. If you report positive, you're going to get a message back that asks you a series of questions, including who your close contacts were. If you get that message and you don't reply, you're going to start to get phone calls until we reach you so that we can do contact tracing. So we're going to do that. We keep doing the daily symptom tracker, and we keep doing those things, wearing our masks. I'm alone in my office, so I don't have it on. I know hanging from, no, you got to wear the mask. I see this. No, got to wear the mask. Wear the mask, wash your hands. Cough and sneeze into our elbows. That is our best chance of containing the spread of the virus on our campus. Obviously, there are things we cannot control. And one of the things that we cannot completely control is what we and what our students do in our free time. We can't control that, but what we can do is to continue to message, is to continue to communicate, and it's continue to build support among the student body to do the right things. My hope is that students, us, will look around and see what's happened at a few other places that have had to either go remote again for the semester or go remote again for a period of time, and that hopefully that'll say, okay, we don't want to do that. We want to be able to keep doing what we're doing here. I'm also encouraged by the governor's cautious approach. We are still in phase 2, which means that bars will be closed through at least next Friday, and the capacity limits on restaurants will also continue. So we've gotten a lot of questions about the threshold. Like, what are you going to, when, if we have to go remote, there's no magic number. It's a gauge, it's a multiplicity of factors. So we will look at the total number of cases. We will look at how we're doing for capacity in our isolation and quarantine space, which is really, really important. We'll look at the surrounding area. We'll look at absenteeism amongst faculty and staff. So all of those things we will be monitoring regularly to see how we're doing. Right now, we're doing fine, all right? But there's huge value in deep breaths. All right, let me switch gears for just a second and talk about some accomplishments. And I would say, I've already talked about an accomplishment. All you have done to get us to this point is an incredible accomplishment and a fantastic testament to your dedication. So thank you. But in addition, summer enrollment was up for the first time, Stacy, I think in a few years. That's a good thing. We celebrated more than 600 summer graduates in our virtual commencement. We awarded the highest number of undergraduate and graduate degrees to Black students, Hispanic students, and multicultural students, multiracial students in our history. The highest number of Hispanic students earned a doctoral degree. We also awarded the most graduate degrees to veterans in all of our summer histories, and we awarded more degrees to out-of-state students than we ever had before in the summer. Our enrollment numbers for the fall are also looking fantastic. We are bucking the national trend. We had an 18% increase in applications, 6% increase amongst Louisianians, 25% increase from out-of-state students. We don't know what the final numbers will be, but we expect to see a 3.7% increase in undergraduate enrollment to about 26,800 students. Total enrollment, about 33,000 students, which is 1,300 more than we welcomed to school last fall. About 6,600 first-year students, and 11% increase from last fall. Now, as I said, numbers might change a little, but it is a very encouraging trend. We also continue to see incredible increases in historically underrepresented groups among the first-year class. The numbers show that historically underrepresented groups make up 34% of the enrolled first-year class. Black student enrollment is up 33%, and Latinx enrollment has risen 25% since last year. The average ACT holding steady at about 25.5, and the average GPA is slightly up to 3.71. So when you see Jose Aviles and the enrollment management team, please congratulate them. But when you see each other, congratulate yourselves, because they are coming to be taught by you. People say, oh, you won a national championship. Yeah, we did, but we were up all fall. We've been up from the beginning, so they're coming for you. Okay. Before I wrap up, let me also talk about the ongoing and important work to foster a more inclusive, equitable, and diverse campus community. The work must continue, and it must succeed. We continue to see terrible violence against Blacks. The shooting of Jacob Blake 7 times in the back shocked us all. But as terrible and awful as it is, the violence still continues. In Lafayette, Trayford Black was shot and killed. And tragically, in our own hometown, Danny Buckley was killed in the Trader Joe's parking lot. Until we succeed in our work to make our communities more inclusive and opportunities truly available to all, these horrors are going to continue. So our work goes on. Now, I know many of you participated in our July 1st retreat on inclusion, equity, and diversity. Out of that day, 9 groups are now working on action items and plans to make us a more diverse, more inclusive, more equitable campus. They filed their initial reports on July 24th. I'm now meeting with each of the 9. Stacy, Derek, and I are meeting with each of the 9 throughout this week. We'll meet again in a couple of months, but in the meantime, every 2 weeks, they will be updating us. We also recently announced 16 faculty, staff, students, and alumni, some of whom are in this Zoom today, who will serve on our Building Name Evaluation Committee. The committee will consider existing names as they see fit and as suggested. Committee recommendations will go to the existing naming committee, then to Stacy, then to me, then to the board academics committee, and then to the board. So the work of these 9 committees will continue throughout the year. So thank you for everything that you are doing on all these fronts. The challenges that we have overcome since January 1st and really March, when the pandemic hit us, are phenomenal. And they are in large part because of you. You've supported our students, you've supported our community, you've supported our staff, and you've supported each other. And so I'm really honored, as I say, anytime I talk to you, but I'm honored to call you my colleagues. I was walking yesterday. It was miserable, by the way. It was really hot. But anyway, I was walking, and I was turning left on a street, and a former student of mine who was actually in the very first, not the first class I ever taught, but I taught him during my first year of teaching. And so he rolled down his windshield and he said, hi. And I said, hi. And he said, how's it feel to be important? And I said to him, well, I'm not important. I'm just doing a job. And he said, okay, see you. And as soon as he drove away, I said to myself, darn it. What I should have said to him was, I've been important for a long time because I get to teach students and I get to do scholarship and I get to write. And that's what makes me important. And that's what makes y'all important too. So thank you. I'll shut up.
Thank you, President Galligan. Are there any quick questions for the president? If so, please add them to the chat and we will pose them to President Galligan. All right, seeing none. Provost Haney, thank you, President Galligan. Provost Haney.
I'm going to listen to the provost and then I'm probably going to duck out.
Thank you very much, sir. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
I know you have an incredibly full agenda, so I'll be very quick. Tom did a great job of, I think, focusing on the critical work that's happened. And I just wanted, as Tom said, we are so very grateful for the work of each and every one of you to get us to this fall and to get all of those fabulous students here because they want to learn with you. I am so appreciative of the leadership of the Senate. Mandy, God bless her heart, sat on those EOC meetings on a daily basis to ensure faculty representation that is above and beyond the call of duty. And it certainly, Tom and I appreciated the work of the Faculty Senate Exec Committee over the summer, as well as our Staff Senate and the Student Government. So very grateful for just an inordinate amount of effort to ensure that we're here. And I gotta say, it's just so great to see the students on campus. It's so great to see each of you. And we know, as Tom said, there's anxiety, taking those breaths, but it's just so fabulous to be back. So very grateful for that. As Tom said, we are really very focused on bringing real and substantive change when it comes to diversity, equity, and inclusion on the campus. And I'm excited about the new committee that I know has been proposed and it is in the proposed bylaws. I do just want to note that the Office of Diversity has changed the name at the request of the staff there to the Office of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. So it will mirror the committee that you're creating. And I know they're one of the charges is to interact with Derek's office. So very excited about that committee moving forward. So thank you. And yes, Cassandra, no, you know, you want something done really well, ask a busy person. So we're very appreciative of Cassandra being on the task force for police actions, brutality, and training, and very grateful for her stepping up. As so many of I keep saying to everybody, if you're gonna face these challenges, do it at an R1, because we have so much expertise to bring to bear. So you know, as Tom said, it remains such an honor and a privilege to serve alongside of you each and every day. And I always say, as long as there's a faculty member and a student, the rest of us just get to circle your orbit and help you do what you do on a daily basis. So thank you all, and I'm going to stop there, Mandy.
And we did get one question I saw, and I'll answer it quickly. I don't know what percentage you're filling out the symptom tracker. I'll find out, Mandy, and I'll let you know. And no, we're not worried that we're violating FERPA in any way by asking those questions. So thanks, everybody. Stay safe.
All right, thank you both. Thank you both for joining us. And we will pose those questions. I'll also take those questions. Well, Jay Palmer, as it so happens, who's director of the EOC, is on the call today and will be presenting to us later. And that might be another person who can answer those questions with the information that's currently available. All right, well, thank you both again. I'll move on to the president's report if there's nothing further. Well, it looks like they've signed off. So, oh, no, there's the provost. There's
I'm
nothing
still here.
Provost and president. I'll move on to my report. All right, very good. All right, again, welcome back to our meeting. Thank you for all coming, and thank you above all for all the work that I know that you've done over the summer. Despite some weather challenges that contributed to a tumultuous start to our 2020-20 fall season, here we are. As you can see, we are broadcasting live from 135 T. Boyd Hall in the heart of our LSU. I've taken the bold move to switch from my disembodied head that has represented my physical being throughout the summer and move to a more normal, or at least whole body sort of representation that requires appropriate attire for more than the waist up. So, yeah, those habits are pretty easy to fall into, and I totally respect them as well. However, you also note that I am wearing an appropriately color coordinated and perfectly fitted face mask. So, not to diverge too far, but because the president already stole some of my thunder, but let me demonstrate some perfectly unacceptable ways of wearing your mask. One is what we call the earring loop. This is a no-no. And then there's the sweatband look. Again, not helpful. There's the mustache. I don't have a mustache, but if I did, this is what it would look like. Again, not appropriate. Finally, there's the chin strap. Again, not appropriate. Any of these are below a passing grade in academic terms and well below a D. So next, where you can come up with some creativity is how you wish to don your mask. Any way of donning your mask is perfectly acceptable as long as the end result is passable. So you can do the more elegant sort of Cosmo sort of Vogue sort of application. You can do the Superman telephone booth application, or you can add music and do a little dance, do your own little G thing, and sort of make a little dance out of it. All are welcome as long as it ends the same way. All right, enough silliness, please, friends, to protect yourself, your family, and your friends. Please wear a mask and wear it properly. All right, moving on. What a summer. The FSC has been working with the administration on a weekly, if not daily basis for most of the summer. The landscape is quite literally fluid as the muddy Mississippi. So strategies that appear are designed at 8 a.m. are completely null and void by 9 a.m. Volume is voluminous and somewhat hard to find. Recommendations are frequently made from the FSAC to the administration to reduce volume, stick to the salient facts, and make information easy to find. It's a tough job, and we understand that, we respect that, and we can always strive to achieve the best communication method and presentation possible. And many people are working on that tirelessly. First up is the daily health checkers. A lot of questions were raised about this. I can assure you that it went through numerous iterations prior to launch. I, like many others, was immediately directed to the wrong page when I dutifully attempted to comply the very first hour of the very first day. Happily, the problem was fixed super pronto, and I am now free to send my private health information into the digital abyss with faith alone assuring that all HIPAA standards are met and that some anonymous hacker will not take it upon himself to tweet my personal information to the masses. I, like many others, have strong feelings about the protection of health information. Now is not the time or place, but I have stories. Huge stories, important stories. However, I put forth that some details about the storage of, access to, and disposition of the information needs to be provided. As we're all required to agree to the conditions of using LSU equipment, space, and digital resources, so should the reverse be true. That is, the administration should agree to and share all steps to comply with applicable HIPAA regulations. Next, the topic of merit raises. Faculty came through under the most dire of circumstances. We went above and beyond to support students and each other, worked endless hours to transition didactic and experiential learning to virtual, and reconfigured assessments to formats that were actually a greater toll on faculty workload. Work was halted in laboratories for months. Graduate student stipends continued despite months of stasis, and now lost time continues as specimens, reagents, projects must be brought back from storage conditions. Well, extra time has been granted for tenure track accomplishments. Lost time and money cannot simply be reimagined. So a few things. Faculty need a cost of living raise. These have been non-existent for 4 to 5 years, despite escalating cost of benefits and work-related costs, like parking, and additional hardware and bandwidth required for remote teaching. Faculty are more than deserving of a merit raise for a job well done and extraordinary efforts that will continue into the foreseeable future. The student tuition remission rate of 36% tax on graduate student stipends needs to be removed or substantially reduced to protect the stipends partially expended during the shutdown. Grants will be depleted before many are able to finish dissertation work. The exorbitant fee is unreasonable during these hard times, and details about the calculation and application of the tax should be shared with all. Finally, clear consideration of the impact of the COVID shutdown must be given on all annual evaluations. The FSCC will continue to work with administration on these issues that serve to diminish the value of importance of faculty and their trainees. At a higher level, but along the same lines, faculty have repeatedly requested a non-voting seat on the Board of Supervisors. Notably, there is a student government representative, but a physical or virtual seat for faculty representation is a notable and questionable omission. The faculty continue to request that the Board of Supervisors correct this misstep and include faculty representation, again in a non-voting capacity, on the board. We believe the board will find input invaluable to the board's mission, and we can assure the board that the representative will behave with the utmost professional decorum under all circumstances. With a plethora of messaging formats at a frequency few can recall, a breakdown of message accuracy has been detected between upper administration through local administration to faculty. It's a bit like a game of telephone in some cases, where the message is either lost, delayed, or details misconstrued to a rather remarkable extent. Well, the faculty rest assured that this must be the result of a brain blue screen message overload causing a few circuits to overload and short out. We have requested that the chairs of the college policy committees be included in informational meetings and important messaging to keep the lingo lucid. Speaking of messaging, there seems to have been a teensy disconnect on the use of Zoom versus Kaltura versus Panopto for lecture recording. Many faculty followed the initial directive to record lectures on Zoom. Most found the closed captioning options to be superior to other platforms and dutifully spent months preparing lectures and editing the captions in preparation for the fall. And then, whoopsie, off they went. The lectures were transitioned from Kaltura from Zoom. Apparently, there was a 15-day limit on the virtual parking space, and all those hours of captioning edits disappeared, like so many things in the digital realm. Despite faculty pleas, there seemed to be no solution in sight. But hold on, the rest of the story. Our brand new CIO, Craig Woolley, became aware of the problem late last week, requested additional details Friday afternoon, I believe, and before Friday's end, the problem vanished, temporarily. So it appears that lectures on Zoom will be protected in the short term. In the words of Mr. Woolley, we have put a pause on the deletion of any faculty-created recordings in Zoom, and will guarantee that this will remain in effect for the entire fall semester. Also, if a faculty member is aware of any of their Zoom recordings being recently deleted, they can contact the IT help desk, and we believe we can recover that recording if it was deleted within the last 30 days. Well, most excellent news. However, this is only short term, so the FSCC and Faculty Senate volunteers will be working with the administration for a more permanent solution. Sincere thanks, Mr. Woolley. All right, next, the topic of instructional materials ownership. In brief, LSU primarily relegates ownership of instructional material to the faculty creator, generally speaking. In that case, however, a tiny hiccup arises. When said instructional materials are recorded, our LSU retains ownership. This is all spelled out in Permanent Memorandum 15, and further in the Board of Supervisors regulations, which takes precedence over Permanent Memorandum 15. However, neither anticipated the current situation and necessity to record live stream or pre-record instructional materials. As such, the upper administration is graciously convening a committee to update the memorandum to current standards and expectations. Side note, there are issues with security settings that are designed to block downloads of recordings. So it is recommended that you use all available security settings if you don't want your recording downloaded, and test them. I understand IT is working on the issue. I am not aware of the status at this time. All right, moving on. Our steadfast past president, McMillan, worked nonstop on the bylaw revision, the Faculty Senate bylaw revision through the summer, despite his retirement earlier in the year. The bylaws are now ready for Senate consideration and approval. However, a few points. The organization of committees was updated and revised. To maintain some semblance of order, we will first approve the bylaws and then hold committee elections, hopefully in October, at the latest in November. We know that this is an imposition on those currently serving. We ask your understanding and patience. Above all, we thank you for your service and the job well done. To expedite the review revision process, we will be asking for an ad hoc committee to assess Professor McMillan with fielding and incorporating suggestions for corrections and changes. This will ensure a Faculty Senate voice in the process and surely keep things moving along. We'll be requesting representation from among disciplines, so please consider volunteering yourself, your friends, your frenemies, or anyone else for this important and transitional process. There have been questions over the summer about how the FSCC is contributing to inclusion, diversity, and equity on the campus. Well, first off, thanks to professors, all the School of Music reached out to the Faculty Senate, and Professors Tara Houston and Shannon Walsh met with the FSCC to draft some bylaws for an inclusion and equity committee, inclusion, diversity, and equity committee in the bylaws. So thank you both, and those have been added and will be available, are available for your review. Second, every FSCC member is currently serving on the Campus Inclusion, Diversity, and Equity Committee established by President Galligan and led by top administrators with focused leadership by VP Derek Rivera's. Each FSCC member is part of a distinct committee. Movement has been swift and genuinely responsive. Action items are already drafted, delegated, and timelines established. As President Galligan said, progress is monitored by upper administration several times a month. I'm generally impressed with the effort and dedication of the committee as a whole and the subcommittees individually. As a reminder, however, it is incumbent upon all of us to be and embody the change. My grandmother always admonished me to hold myself to higher standards than I held others. She often reminded me to judge myself before I judged others. She was a pretty tough woman, and I'm convinced I have yet to meet her standards. But I am committed to never quit trying. These are amazing times, and we need to do our part, individually and together, to sustain the momentum. In closing, I would be remiss not to acknowledge the stress, strain, long hours, and losses since we last met in person in February. What started as a frightening situation morphed into a global horror that will forever change life as we know it. Working from home turned to living at work. I have yet to find a true off button for today's digital shared brain. Friends and loved ones have been distanced, and many of us have suffered unimaginable loss. Family dynamics are altered in unforeseeable ways with work, education, child, and pet care. and recreation occurring in close quarters. Days turn into weeks and then months, and the challenges continue. Many local jobs have been lost or furloughed, and budgets are additionally strained by costs of working and learning from home 24/7. Well, I admit that the time together with my adult progeny is valued, and it with time will be treasured. I miss those who I can't see terribly, and mourn the loss of our traditional family holidays. My childhood friend, a psychologist, reminded me that a form of grieving is experienced with the loss and then acceptance of our new reality. Everyone is experiencing their own version of the COVID pandemic. So what shall we do? Well, we're already doing it. We have been and are doing it now. We pick up, we reach out, we support each other. Realize that we are all making our way through the haze. Take a breath, or a few, or a many. Try not to overdo it. Forgive when you can. Forget when you have to. One way or another, we got this. We're fierce LSU faculty. Stay well, friends, and don't hesitate to reach out if I can be of any assistance. With that, I'll conclude the President's report, and I welcome any questions. Oh, okay. Robert Cook has posed a question about the daily health check, and do we have to do it on weekends or days that we're not here? Excellent question, and I'm going to hold that question for Jake Palmer when he has his presentation. So Professor Cook, please pose that again, if I forget to ask it at the time. All right, well, with the understanding that everybody's lightning fingers are probably a bit fatigued, feel free to forward your questions, and thank you for your time. All right, moving on. First up is Vice President Thackaberry, who has graciously joined us to fill us in on, well, all things distance learning, I guess. So VP Thackaberry.
Thank you, President Lopez. I needed to unmute, and thank you all for having me here. I have a brief update regarding some of the faculty support that we are providing and how we are moving forward with that. I'm happy to take any questions. And also, I do have a brief update on the status of LSU online, fully online programs, if that is of interest and if we have time. I am noting the time. I have been told I have about 10 minutes. So President Lopez, please do cut me off at any point if we reach that time. So first I wanted to share with you some of what we've been doing during this time to make sure that we have support available for faculty. We have had professional development for a number of different types of trainings, and we've had many faculty take advantage of that. So thank you all to those of you who have participated. We also have recorded all of those live trainings, and those have been viewed over 2,800 times. We've had 380 walk-ins since we began this journey together in March, and those walk-ins are due to on-demand support from learning experience designers. So if any of you have been able to take advantage of that, we have live Zoom rooms daily, and also both Saturdays and Sundays. So one of the first things that we did was pivoted to what we call hypercare to make sure that as many resources as possible could be redirected towards front-end support. So we had designers and members of the Faculty Technology Center available also evenings and weekends for extended care. And we are tracking all of those numbers of tickets, people who come in, views of this. If you Google faculty support online LSU, your entire first page of Google results will be one of our faculty support pages. So we're excited about that. We've had, I I think almost 11,000 now, 11,000 hits in the last month and a half on our faculty support pages. We are fully at capacity. So a couple of weeks ago, we did have extended wait times, which is not obviously what we want to see for our faculty. It has slowed down, which is good. We still do have hypercare through the end of this week. So since March, actually since May, we combined the Faculty Technology Center and Academic Technology with the design and development team and the other teams from online and continuing ed. So the idea is to have a one-stop shop for the creation of the e-learning environment from the focus area of faculty needing to get support or assistance with one thing, not needing to go to multiple places or figure out what team they need to connect with. So we did do the Moodle upgrade this summer. It was successful, but messy. And we have had many, shall I say, unexpected things happening this fall and learned a lot so that next time we're not going to be 4 years behind, and we'll make sure that we make those updates yearly. So we have project management on that process for the first time. We also created a new unified website. So previously there was a separate website for the FTC. We have combined all of that together. That's what we call our MVP for it. It was our minimum viable product. We are going to be launching a new website in November for faculty, same location, but that's very focused on sort of the end user experience of what do you want to do. So for example, we've had some challenges with Zoom and Kaltura and Panopto, and frankly, Kaltura and Panopto have some duplicative functionality. And so next time it'll be, if you want to do live video, here is how to do it, the design, the support, all of those pieces. The same thing with other components. And that should be launching in November. Also, we have been working with the Learning and Teaching Collaborative, Dr. Jane Cassidy, and some others to ensure that we have support for the Faculty Fellows Partnership, which is going to embed a learning experience designer in each college, live presence at least 1 day a week, but also that connective tissue to ensure that we're creating the support that faculty need when they need it. So these are just samples of some of our current trainings. As most of you are aware, the previous look and feel of Moodle went away with the upgrade. So we are all in the same visual interface, which is good. And these are examples of some of our trainings, many of these. So we're full, for example, preparing for fall 2020, a full series of webinars, trainings, and asynchronous components went into that. And we have had some bumps and bruises along the way. So we had some, if any of you, especially thank you to the patience of those in the law school, as we had to deal with some enrollment issues. That programming had to be fixed. We have had some LTI integrations. And then for those of you who are aware, we did have an accidental deletion of every single LSU online course during finals week. So that was human error, and everybody dropped everything, myself included, to get those courses back up. That was not a great experience for faculty or students, and we are putting in place processes to ensure that does not happen again. We are also working with the Uber Tech Group to have a holistic vision for academic technology. We need a more formal structure for academic technology governance and ensure that it's aligned with the previous structures for the academic technology committee. And that is not a joke. We are still dealing with things coming here and there in Moodle, and we are updating things every single day. So if you see something, say something, because it may be a little tweak here or there, but please do get it to us so that we can work to fix it. So as you can anticipate, the closer we got to that third week of August, our live support trends went up, and we're doing really well. I think probably this week is the last week we're going to need to have hypercare. We'll also have all of the faculty typical stuff available. Do we have questions before I move on? Those are the primary pieces focused on the faculty support, hypercare, and the Moodle upgrade. But I also have information to share on LSU online enrollments and programs. President Lopez, do we have enough time for me to spend a few more minutes?
Yes. Also, did you see the question from Professor Cook about graph articles?
I did not. Hold on a minute.
Okay. Well, the question I can certainly read it.
Please, thank you.
Are updated and current grok articles coming soon? And if so, what is the timeline?
Yes, so many grok articles have already been updated. We do have a cadence of the rest of them. There are only a few lingering that I'm aware of, and those should be completed in 2 weeks. Those should be completed, well, in 2.5 weeks. I can check back on the specific project plan and let you know which ones are lingering. The vast majority have already been completed.
All right. Well, we'll watch for additional questions. Why don't you carry on for a bit?
Great, thank you. And I will try to be very brief with our overall update. Those of you who know, we do 3 things: high quality learning experiences online, world-class customer service for our students, and we endeavor to do that for our faculty and as well for our programs, and then a sustainable economic model. That is very important because something we take very seriously is contributing back to the overall research endeavor. So as you look at the growth in online education overall, this is pre-COVID. So as you can see, folks, students who are taking no distance education has been plummeting. And as you can see, our enrollment growth is going pretty darn well. If you're looking at the red points that are popping up on the screen, that first one is our enrollment when I joined the university about 2.5 years ago. It was 803. Fall 2, that second circle, is when we took over online program management from our external partner that had been Academic Partnerships. Their revenue share was about 50% of tuition, which was not a great deal for LSU, great deal for the OPM, but we insourced all of those jobs and we've been reinvesting in Louisiana. That second circle is when we broke financial aid. So when the programs had originally been created, those they were offset. So spring 1 started during like fall 2, the whole calendar was offset. So we had to break financial aid. So there was no financial aid available to students for that specific term. Fall 1 of 2019 is when we launched the first programs, first degree programs that we had launched since years before I got here. I think 2014, 2015 was the last year programs had been launched. So, fall 2 is when we launched undergrad. And then spring 2 is when we unified the brands. And right now, as of today, it's actually going to be a little bit higher than that. We're at 1961. We think we'll settle around 1960. That is a 72% increase fall over fall. So just a little bit about our overall strategy is to take best practices from across the entire spectrum of online learning and put them together in a way that is uniquely LSU. So we have in-sourced marketing and customer service. We have a very high quality research-based brand, which is very different. And all of those pieces together are creating sort of a stackable architecture because education isn't a point in time anymore. It's a spectrum, and we want folks to keep coming back to us to finish their undergraduate, to get their graduate degree, to get a certificate. And really, we're bringing together LSU Alexandria, LSU Eunice, one program at LSU Shreveport. We're launching a program next fall with NOLA Health Science Center for a Bachelor of Science in Public Health. The idea is to have a full portfolio for students depending upon their admission ability to whatever institution, making sure that we have something for folks who are more price sensitive, so who really need a more affordable option, and then also ensuring that students have access to our extremely highly qualified faculty in very specialized areas. So making sure that all of those pieces are present so that we can serve a wide portfolio of students. And then a little bit about our growth. I see Mandy, I see that you are standing, so I am wondering if I am at time. I'm gonna take that as a yes. What I will do is I will send this to you, President Lopez, to send out, and if folks have questions, they can email me. Does that make sense?
All right, are there any quick questions for Vice President Thackaberry? Who we actually are. We're very, very grateful for your time and taking the time to share the good, the bad, and the ugly. So are we, get your lightning fingers out. I don't see any now, but we will certainly pass on any questions to you. And thank you very, very much for your presentation. Very
Thank
grateful.
you.
All right, up next on the agenda is I'm pleased to introduce, though he needs no introduction, is Mr. Jake Palmer, the director of the EOC. He's had a very, very, very busy year, I think. I do see him on a very regular basis as he calls meetings 2 to 3 times a week. So he's here to talk to us a little bit about what the EOC is, what it does, some of the decision making, and some of the latest things that in which it has participated to guide our university. So, Mr. Palmer, are you there?
Yes, thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Yes, Dr. Lopez and I have got to know each other quite well over the last couple months, I guess. She's been participating on the EOC core committee, which I'll explain here in just a little bit. But she's been very adamant, very good about making sure that as we have moved through this brand new situation since March, that that the concerns and the needs of this group here is represented on that group, which I think has been a great thing to have. It's something that we hadn't had in the past, but since Dr. Lopez reached out and inquired about being part of the committee and being participating in that role, I think it's been very, very beneficial. Kind of give you a little background. I've been at LSU since 2017. I did the same role at a university in Texas prior to that. I am a graduate of LSU, so this was a great opportunity for those of you that I don't know, a great opportunity for me to get a chance to come back and work at LSU. So what the Office of Emergency Preparedness is prior to my position, it was something that was kind of staffed on as an as-needed basis. It was something that was stood up in immediate response to some type of event, either a hurricane or other type of emergency on campus. What my office is doing is we're kind of the designated office for mitigation, repairing, cleaning up after a past emergency, preparing for a new emergency, responding, and then just making sure the university is as ready as possible should something happen. We base all of our decisions off of the first priority is safety, life and safety. The second one is we look to try to protect the university's property and assets as much as possible. And then the third is any kind of continuity of operations, trying to get the university to recover and get back up on our feet again and doing what we're here to do, and that's educating our community. The EOC is a physical location, and we're very, very lucky to have a dedicated facility here on campus. If you're not aware, it's in the public safety building where LSU PD is across from the Tiger Stadium. Like I said, we are really one of the few universities that have a dedicated space that's there 24/7. It's got the it's fully ready to use kind of extra layers of communication, extra layers of IT support, and some extra tools in place to where we can make sure that we can still run operations should we lose power on campus or be affected otherwise by loss of communication. Our EOC is staffed by volunteers from across campus. It's people who have been contacted and have gone above and beyond and are willing to volunteer when the EOC is stood up. The EOC can be stood up for any type of reasons. We've stood it up in the past for things happening not on campus, but in the Baton Rouge area. We've stood it up for, hard to believe, but South Louisiana, we stood it up for ice storms and winter storms. Obviously hurricanes, we were stood up last week in preparation for Marco and Laura. And to some degree in a virtual type setup, we've been activated since March. Actually, it's probably a little bit before that we started meeting regularly and started staffing up for the COVID response. Some of the things we were doing for that is we were working as we realized what was going to happen, and we started preparing the campus to go to a virtual setup. We were working with different departments on campus to make sure they had all the resources and assets that they needed. We also worked with probably the annoying many of you on this call. We were also working to make sure that as few as people as possible were coming to campus. And it may seem like it at the time, but our goal was not to annoy. It was really just to help limit the amount of people on campus to where there wasn't any kind of community spread on campus. Just to kind of give you a structure and the flow of the EOC, as I said, many of the actual people that staff the EOC are volunteers from on campus, but many of the what we call the EOC core committee is made up of LSUPD, the chief of LSUPD, the head of, he was the interim head at that time of ITS. We have representation, as I mentioned, from the faculty senate. We also have representation from academic affairs, strategic communications, facility services, and the student affairs as well. So what this group does, that's what we call the emergency operation and the emergency core committee. What we do is we start looking at things that are any kind of information we've got about a situation that may be affecting the campus in the future. So I'll use a hurricane's easy example to kind of look at is when we start getting information that there's something that could affect the campus coming into the Gulf or anywhere that could affect the state. Actually, we start routinely meeting to share information, to gather information about what type of events we have going on, what a campus closure or campus shutdown would mean, any kind of additional precautions when we have students living on campus. We look at all those type of things. So we look at that information, and then we kind of formulate a recommendation that we make to the president and the university leadership. As for a hurricane, we'll recommend that based on current conditions that we recommend closing for a certain amount of time. President reviews that recommendation. If he chooses to take it, then it's the EOC's job is to put everything in place to make sure that action can be taken and we're secure and prepared as possible. Like I said, most of the time the EOC is stood up for a couple weeks at a time at most. Obviously, this is unprecedented that it's been stood up for this many months. We're kind of really working around the clock. We're working very hand in hand with a lot of organizations on campus that are looking at the testing operations that are going on, the Tiger Check system, events planning that's going on campus, working very closely with Res Life to support them in any needs that we can. Really, if you think about the EOC, really what it is in a word is a coordination. It's really bringing together a bunch of different folks from a bunch of different walks of life, and we're looking at the things that cross boundaries. The there's certain departments that are really good about doing their thing, and that's excellent. So we rely on them to help us when there's certain activities that'll cross those paths. And you know, it's one of those type operations where as we start seeing things trending, we'll start building plans. We'll start pulling together subject matter experts in each one of those areas and start looking at what we need. Do we need to start training people on certain topics? Do we need to build continuity plans? All that type of information, that's stuff that comes through the EEOC. Like I said, we're in unprecedented times now, so we're really kind of, we work real closely with some of our peer institutions and look at things they're doing, looking lessons learned from things they've gone through, and we look at them and see, okay, is this something we can apply to the university, and how we can just be prepared as possible and be on the forefront of things instead of purely reacting to situations. So,
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Palmer. Are there any, we certainly respect and value the job you do. I know thank you very much for letting me correct the committee. I've certainly learned an absolute amount, a tremendous amount. And I appreciate the opportunity to share a faculty viewpoint on some of these issues as well. Are there any questions for Mr. Palmer? All right. Well, if any come up, and then as we move along, we'll certainly pass them on to you. Again, we're grateful for your time. One thing that you might want to explain is there was a little bit of confusion, maybe, about the weather decisions that were made last week. I happen to have been privy to the meeting, so I understand what happened. But do you want to just expand on that just a little bit so faculty have some understanding of the complexity of making these decisions?
Sure. So like I said, when we start, when we have a weather event like that coming into our area, my office starts jumping on different calls with the National Weather Service. We meet with the state on almost a daily basis. We start communicating with the other institutions around the state. We start gathering as much information as possible. As you can imagine, the weather is a very dynamic thing. If you looked at the forecast that we were looking at on Sunday, as opposed to what actually happened by that Friday, you wouldn't have ever been able to draw a straight line between the two things. So what we try to do is, especially in this time, because we understand how stressful that it was our first week of classes. There were so many other things that had already affected the school year. We tried to be very conservative about our approach to whether we close campus, because it does affect so many people. And we also try to make sure that when we make those decisions, we try to communicate it as early as we can, but not so early that we hem ourselves in for closing campus on a beautiful sunny day. If you remember, I believe it was Cristobal during the summer. The weather conditions said we were going to get a pretty aggressive rain event. We took that recommendation after speaking with quite a few different sources, and we ended up closing campus that day. And if you remember, it was a very nice, pretty peaceful, cool day. So as we were watching these events, we were trying to get things in as place as possible. We were working with our contacts with the state and with the National Weather Service, and based on what we saw, and there were a few different tornado warnings and watches that day of, but they were not in our immediate area. So we felt comfortable that we could have held class on that day. Obviously, when we try to make the decision as early as possible so that everyone could plan their day. There were some indications from the other state agencies that they were going to close, and rather than complicate things further, we just decided that we were going to change our stance, and we were going to close along with it. Just because we realized that Eunice, the Shreveport, some of our friends on the western part of the state, even some of our students that were working, having to jump into classes virtually, were going to be affected by the storm. So that was one that was obviously a little bit different because we do have as many people going virtual, and we reversed course and went ahead and closed campus. And the only guarantee I can give you is we're going to do whatever it's going to take to put everybody as protective as position as we can. If that means changing things at the last minute, that's definitely a choice that we'll make.
Well, we appreciate that very much. I certainly didn't mean to put you on the spot. I was just trying to point out the one thing that is truly unpredictable and can change in an instant is the weather. This is Louisiana, and if you don't like the weather, just wait a second. So we totally understand, and as you can see, people are very grateful for taking a conservative approach. Now, just before we let you go, there is the question about the COVID reporting. I don't know if you can answer this or not, but people are asking, do we fill it out if we're not coming on campus? That's number one. Number two, when will the COVID numbers available on the website be updated? I think that was it, right? Was it on this one? Okay. So if you don't mind to take about 30 seconds to let us know, we'll be grateful.
Yeah, so the part about how often or should you complete the symptom checker on the weekends too, or when you're not expecting to come to campus, I understand it may seem like a burden, but it is important that we do that, because what that gives us a tool of doing is for the people that have indicated that they've got symptoms or that they're needing to track that information, the symptom checker helps us do that. So this isn't just a campus situation. So we're trying to get as much data as we can and be able to track as much data as we can for the extent that we're in this type of situation. So it is very important that you complete that. The other piece of why it's so important is we're still trying to build that muscle memory about completing the symptom checker. So it's real important that people continue to do that. Now for the folks that I can't remember where the guy was from, but he reached out because he's out of the state completely. So he has never come into campus. So, the minute situations like that, we can kind of work with you on, but it is important that everybody complete that symptom checker every day.
I have a comment.
Okay.
Quick comment. Since you're gathering data, you're not only checking who is coming on campus, how they feel. I noted that tool expired the following day, because I went back to my weekend questions. If you are gathering data, it would be good to keep the tool running on that day you're asking question, also for the following day, so you gather more data at the end.
How do you mean keep the tool running?
When you ask the question, how do you feel today? Then the following day, that questionnaire expired. If you're truly gathering data, you want to keep it going for a few days so you can get retrospective data, which are going to be informative as well, which would be useful on an epidemiological study.
Okay.
If it's not clear, I can send you an email.
Yeah, I'll follow it up with our group. We'll look into that. Thank you.
Okay.
No problem.
And the next question is, if people are looking for the current numbers, the current COVID numbers.
So that is being compiled now. I believe there'll be an update by the end of today for the website. So that number will be posted later today.
Okay, well, I want to thank you again for coming to visit with us. I certainly know your office was a bit of a mystery until I got to know it. And we certainly appreciate what you do. And I think now you can put a face with a name that goes with all those EOC messages. And now we know where to find you, just in case. So thank you again very, very much. And thank you for your service and protecting our LSU.
Thank you for having me.
I'll forward any additional questions that come forward.
Okay, thank you.
All right, next up is our esteemed now, oh goodness, now I've forgotten, 18 months, 2 years, time flies. It's all the same to me. But she's been an extraordinarily busy person. She's reached out, many faculty and staff have reached out to her. Her plate is always full, and people are very thankful for her guidance and advice. So I thought we would appreciate an update on how things are going. She has shared in advance a very nicely prepared report for your evaluation. And she's here to kind of give us a quick summary and answer any questions. So thank you very much.
Hi, Mandy. Thank you for having me today. I'll be very brief. I did release my first annual report this summer. They're based on fiscal years. I did do a report last year, but it was statistics only. I really didn't do anything more than just provide some raw data. I filled this position in February of 2018. And so that first summer, I'd only been here about five or 6 months at the end of that particular fiscal year. And the office, I was still opening the office and doing a lot of outreach. I serve all the campuses, and including Pennington and the 2 health science centers. So I really didn't have much data at that point. So I just skipped that fiscal year as far as any kind of reporting goes. And then last summer, like I said, I just did really statistics. And this year I tried to break it out and provide a little more information, still maintaining confidentiality within my office, but giving an idea of trends and situations that are coming at least through my office. It's by no means a reflection necessarily of what's happening on all the campuses. It just happens to be who's utilizing my office at this time. And everybody can kind of read the information themselves, but both years, last year and this year, it's overwhelming that the majority of the people who utilize my office are from the Baton Rouge campus. It ranges around 90% last year and 95% for this year. So it's really, and I don't know if that is proximity or if it is just that on the other campuses is not as well known that I'm available for use, and maybe not as understanding as what my office is used for. So I might consider doing some more outreach this year, as well as because of COVID, I have been conducting meetings by Zoom. And if a year ago you had told me that it would not be in-person meetings, it would all be by Zoom, I would say it's not going to work. I need to be in person. But it's actually worked out quite well. And one thing I've learned is that Zoom actually provides people with a lot more confidentiality to visit with me. So you don't run the risk of someone seeing you wander into my office or leaving my office. And so regardless of how things go with COVID, I think that I will continue to always offer people the option of Zoom, because it does give an extra layer of confidentiality if someone has concerns about retribution. With that being said, I can go through the report, but I don't want to really take up anybody's time when they can actually read the report. If there's any questions, one thing I would like to mention, for those of you who are aware that I have an office at the Student Union, I did decide to not renew the lease this summer for budget reasons. And so I no longer have the office at the Student Union. I still have my office at the administration building on West Lakeshore Drive. And right now I'm only in the office Tuesdays and Thursdays, and I work remotely Monday, Wednesday, Friday, but regardless, I'm available by Zoom or telephone. So if there's any questions about my office or the report, I'm happy to answer.
All right, well, thank you very, very much. Are there any questions from Ms. Niedecken?
Retha, why did you say you don't have your office in the union anymore?
It's for budget reasons. The space at the union is, you have to pay rent, and it was about $30,000 or give or take a year for that rent in that space. So so I gave it up this summer.
The previous Ombudsperson used to be in the geology building in a free office.
Well, I mean, the office at the administration building is free as well. The difficulty about having an office in one of the academic buildings is like I was mentioning, it doesn't offer a lot of privacy. People can see, people wandering in and out of my office. So what I have realized with Zoom is a lot of people who were fearful of coming to the office, whether it was at the student union or otherwise, are much more willing to speak with me by Zoom.
All right. Any additional questions? Well, I guess my question might be, what is the most, if you could summarize, what would be the most common challenge that you deal with, or that you, what do I want to say, consult on, from, yeah, I guess just in general, without identifying any single group, faculty, staff, or students, what do you think is the most common problem presented to you?
Well, I guess it probably is poor communication skills and maybe abuse of power or bullying. Bullying can be a conversation in and of itself, so there's a lot of criteria that goes with that. Not everyone who behaves like a jerk is necessarily a bully. Bullies, it's a much more complex and layered scenario. So I don't want to diminish a situation just by glossing over it and calling it bullying. But those situations are probably the most difficult because most people do not realize the effect or the impact that their behavior has on someone else. And to try to communicate that with them is difficult because my office is voluntary. And so for someone to come see me and for me to be able to convey to them the difficulty someone else is having, they have to voluntarily come. And many people are not interested in sorting out the problem. They feel like it's the other person's problem and they can deal with it. So that would probably be the biggest challenge, is convincing somebody to want to work out the differences with someone else.
All right. And would you recommend any specific training or suggest a way to help avoid bullying in the workplace?
Oh gosh, that is a loaded question.
Well, it wasn't supposed to be. Okay, well.
Bullying is because bullying is kind of a word that's thrown around, and when I use it, I have a definition for it, and it is a very complex scenario. It goes far beyond someone being kind of a jerk, and it's repetitive behavior. It is there are a lot of roots underlying the cause for the behavior, and I think the best thing I could probably say just in a few seconds is, if you feel that you're being targeted by a bully, to maybe come see me, and one thing that we can do, even if the bully's not willing to work with me, is look at your boundaries and putting you in a position with the tools to reestablish and maintain your own boundaries, because bullies tend to blow over someone else's boundaries, and many of us try to be polite and try to not be confrontational, and then once those boundaries are kind of mowed down, then it's really hard to reestablish them. So I would say reach out to me if that's your situation.
All right, well, thank you very much. I didn't mean to throw in some sort of little stumbling block there. I think that's excellent advice and appreciate it. And certainly, I think it's also important that if the senators see a bullying situation or some situation that is less than professional, that they, well, reach out and point the affected individuals to your office. I know you've been extremely helpful in just innumerable, actually, cases. So we're grateful for you here. We're grateful for the job you do. And anyone, are there any other additional questions? Hopefully less complex than mine. All right. Well, seeing none at this point, we'll certainly pass any on that come along to you. Thank you very, very much for taking the time to meet with us today.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
All right. Okay. So moving on to old business. So before we move on, I first of all thank everyone for their time, the administrators and others that come to meet with us. I think this is an excellent opportunity for us to learn and share, and also an opportunity to pose questions that otherwise may not come up. So please don't hesitate if something comes around in your mind after the meeting. We're happy to pass along those questions and suggestions to those who have visited with us. So don't hesitate. All right, so moving on to our old business. We previously, before we broke for the summer, had a first reading, Resolution 2004, Gender Equity and Health Insurance Benefits, that was sponsored by the Benefits Advisory Committee and the FSCC. Is there anyone from the Benefits Committee here to read the resolution for the second reading of the resolution? This is already entered into discussion, so I will, if someone can read it. If not, I'm happy to do so. Okay. Professor Lane, would you like to read it, or shall you have me do it? All right. Well, Professor Lane appears to be muted. I will carry on in his stead. All right. Faculty Senate Resolution 20-04, Gender Equity and Health Insurance Benefits, sponsored as I've said, by the Benefits Advisory Committee and the Faculty Senate Executive Committee. Whereas employees covered by the various Office of Group Benefits and LSU First Health Insurance plans pay the same premiums for the same plans. Whereas those plans designated employee plus faculty, employee plus family, and employee plus child or children cover dependent children until age 26, but do not cover maternal care for those child dependents, with the effect that employees who have male children receive coverage for all their major medical costs, but those who have female children might be denied coverage for one of the costliest medical expenses among young adults. Whereas the employee premiums for LSU health insurance plans have increased dramatically since 2008. For example, from $5,216 in 2008-09 to $8,041 in 2019-20 for the LSU First Option 1 plan for an employee plus family, an increase of 54%, or $2,825 in 11 years, compared to a general rate of inflation of only 17.4% over that same period. Whereas similar health insurance plans and other large Louisiana employers cost their employees substantially less than LSU employees. For example, 37% less, $2,992 on average in 2019 for an employee plus family plan. Whereas inflation-adjusted faculty salaries at LSU have declined by 4.4% over the past 11 academic years, from 2008-09 through 2019-20, despite the faculty's continuing accomplishments in research, contributions in science and teaching, gains in experience, or any other measure of productivity. Whereas HRM continues, despite a long-standing request by the Faculty Senate to cease and desist, to advertise falsely that LSU offers outstanding benefits to eligible employees and their dependents, including health, life, dental, and vision insurance and more. Whereas state's flagship university should strive to be at the forefront of social progress in its state by offering its employees benefits that are equitable and affordable relative to salaries. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the LSU Faculty Senate requests LSU management to investigate and report back to the Faculty Senate about health insurance options that provide the best equitable coverage for equal premium payments for the various plans, irrespective of an employee's gender, the gender of dependent children, or any other personal characteristic, including maternal care for dependents. All right, so we've already entered this into discussion. I believe, well, indeed I see, the edits have been made as previously requested. Is there any further discussion on this resolution? You can either raise your hand or enter into the chat box, or I suppose you can unmute yourself and shout out if all else fails.
Looks like they like it.
All right, well, there's a resounding silence. Okay, so then, may I have a motion to vote on this resolution? All right, Professor Knapp. And a second?
A second. That's
Okay.
Pam.
And okay, yep, we have a number of seconds. All right, now, we'll have to do this a bit. Okay, there we are. It's already set up. So all those in favor, please push the little button with the check. All those not in favor, please press no. I don't suppose there's an option to abstain.
No, but they can privately message.
All right, well, if you wish to abstain, you can privately message Ms. Knoll. All right, we'll give it a few minutes.
The buttons, it's under participants.
Right, and if you're like me and a bit of a Zoom flunky, actually, perhaps you're not a flunky, but I am. So you can go to the little participants button that shows the two people there and 52 next to it, and then you'll see the buttons with which to vote.
16, 17, 20.
There's so many buttons, I can't. I just,
25, 27.
all right, we're still voting. It appears we should have about 40, some, correct? The visitors accounted for. All right.
29. One more for 30.
Okay. All right, those who haven't voted, please vote. Well, I think we should have about
31.
31 140.
Oh, okay.
So,
All right. Okay, well, it looks like the resolution passes
Unanimous.
unanimously. Thank you all very much, and thanks to the Benefits Committee and the Executive Committee. We will carry this forward, and it will be first on our list of subjects to talk to our new CFO, the Director of HRM, Mr. Clay Jones. So who will be visiting us at a future meeting. All right, moving on to new business. With every new first semester, with every new fall semester, we do elect among the new senators, that is those senators beginning their term this fall, we elect a member, a junior faculty senator member, to the Faculty Senate Executive Committee. So we are now taking nominations feel free to nominate yourself or anyone else who is a new faculty senator. What we failed to do was to write the list of new faculty senators. Do we have those? These
Or mark at the, on the ends here? The mark on the end.
All right. Let me read the list. So, among those eligible are Professor Heather Kirk-Ballard,
Joan King, but she's already.
all right.
Kevin Ringleman,
There's a question.
he's not here today.
Okay, Professor Kevin Ringleman, who is apparently not available to be here today. Wei-Ling Song, Professor Wei-Ling Song. Okay. Professor Jerry Knapp. Professor Song Jong Park. Professor Mohammed Wah. Professor Pam Blanchard. Professor Carlos Lee. Professor Julia Wright Collins. Professor Jennifer Davis. Professor Elizabeth Carter. Professor David Stamps. Professor Inessa Basayev. Professor Robert Cook. Professor William Dorier. Professor Jake Esselstyn. And Professor Joseph Francis. All right, Professor Francis may not be eligible. I think he recently took an administrative position
Correctly.
at the veterinary school. So unfortunately, he is not eligible. Okay, so far we have, please let me know if you'd like me to reread those. Okay. Any other nominations? Okay, so far we have two, Professor Julie Wright and Professor David Stamps. Any other nominations? All right, well, before we move on, we'd like to offer both of those junior senators, freshman senators, I suppose, an opportunity to give a brief, campaign speech. So shall we start with Professor Wright?
Good afternoon. I would love to serve on the executive committee. I have enjoyed serving at the university hearing panel, hearing both the sides of faculty and students with some disagreements that they have. I've enjoyed serving with that, and since I'm finishing up a position there, I would love to serve our faculty senate.
All right, thank you, Professor Wright.
Thank you.
Right. Professor Stamps. Are you unmuted? Oh, there you are. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Hi. I am honored to have been nominated, but I would like to put my support behind Professor Wright.
No.
All right. Professor Stamps has declined the nomination very graciously. All right. All right. Well, as a matter of practice, please go ahead and fill out the ballot nonetheless to endorse the election of Professor Wright.
This was really nice. Are you sending an email?
Yeah, it's in the chat.
Okay, everyone should see it. It's a Qualtrics. It's in the chat. It's just popped up. Yeah.
Do you think this looks good?
Oh, okay. Ms. Nola said it's not quite been edited, but the only choice is Professor Wright. So please endorse her by voting. Is it going?
Yeah, I got it.
Oh. What was the question?
This is it.
No. I thought it was a question, no? All right. It looks like the votes are in. And thank you all for voting. And welcome, Professor Wright. And we will add you to the mailing list of the Faculty Senate Executive Committee. First meeting this Thursday. So welcome, and thanks to all for voting. All right, as our final agenda item of the day, as I indicated previously, we've worked, well, Professor McMillan has worked tirelessly through the summer and a good part of last year to update and revise the Faculty Senate bylaws, which, according to the bylaws, are supposed to be updated every 5 years. Unfortunately, it seems we ran a little bit behind on that, but we are now coming up to speed. So as I mentioned, the revisions have been somewhat extensive, but not necessarily in content. He's streamlined everything, we've sort of updated everything, but there has been a little bit of rearranging of some of the committees, and as well as the addition of the Diversity, Inclusion, and Equity Committee. So, Dr. McMillan, I'll yield the floor. Let's see. Unmute. Oops. It seems you're muted, Professor McMillan. All right, there you are. We're having technical difficulties. Still nada? You want to call in on your cell phone? All right. Do you have your cell phone? Can you call in? Can you hear me? Ah, the joys of technology. All right. Okay, well, it seems that the gods of the Ethernet are not in our favor today. So, can you hear me, Professor McMillan?
hear
Do
you.
do you have a phone? Can you call? No, he does not. All right, fair enough. Well, here we are. But these are not insurmountable odds. We have provided a copy of the revised, and new, I think several versions of the revised bylaws. I invite you to review these at your leisure. Not really, because we will be going over them at the next meeting. But what we do need to do is have you read them, make some comments, edits, etc., and then forward them to Miss Knoll at present. She will collect those, and we will be reaching out to senators. Volunteers are welcome to form an ad hoc committee to go over the suggestions from from the Senate, and have a decision tree to decide whether or not to incorporate them, those that warrant discussion, etc. We find that this will probably expedite the process because we simply won't have time to go over everything line by line, but we also want the faculty Senate voice to be present during the discussions and deliberations. We'll then provide a revised copy in advance of the next meeting. So we're on a very tight timeline here. I would appreciate your comments within the next 2 weeks so that we can come together as an executive committee with the ad hoc members and work through the suggestions and comments. We will then have the quote first reading next meeting, and we'll vote on it to approve them in October. Please let me know if this is unclear in any way, but what do we need right now? We need everyone to read and comment and make suggestions on the revised bylaws. Also, we need volunteers to assist with the assessment of all the comments and suggestions. And then the next meeting, we will hit the highlights of the major changes, and it will be the first read. All right? Any questions on that?
Yeah, Mandy.
Okay.
So I was solicited from my department to give some recommendations on PS 109 because I was on the university committee, the advisory committee for that. And so, and I did, and actually 2 people in my department did, and I'm just wondering if you are also receiving those recommendations that were solicited through the department.
Sorry, Professor Shipman, is your question, sorry, I don't think I.
So you're asking for recommendations from us, and yes. I did already, so this would, does this include the PSs? I guess all of the
No. These are the Faculty Senate bylaws.
Only, okay.
These are our governing bylaws, the governing bylaws of the Faculty Senate.
Okay. All right, thanks.
Can you, so Professor Knapp, can you give a quick idea as to why membership sections dropped from the Faculty Senate Committee sections? Okay, I believe that let's see, Professor McMillan has prepared an operations manual that will be separate from the bylaws themselves. And so the specifics about the operations of the individual committees are in that document. This makes the bylaws, well, shorter and includes the more, okay, Dr. McMillan, have you called in?
Yes, I'm on the line now. Can you hear me?
Yes, okay. I'll let you take it from here.
I'm sorry if there's an echo. I'm not sure exactly what's wrong. Is there still an echo?
No, I think we got it. Okay.
Okay. I think the question was, why was the membership deleted? It was felt that a lot of the unnecessary information would be in the committee operating procedures, and this would include membership, details, number of members, who, which colleges should be represented, and those type things, as well as the operating procedures, and that realistically, the only thing that was needed in the bylaws was the name of the committee and what they were actually charged to do. So all of that information now that's currently in the bylaws about the information on the committees, we found in the last year 2 different instances, if not more, at least 2 come to mind, where a committee actually needed to be expanded, but we could not really do that and stay within the bylaws. So it was felt that by having the operating procedures to be more flexible, that would resolve that difficulty or situation. Stephen, does that address your question?
It was Professor Knapp.
Oh, Professor Knapp does. Yes. Does that address your question, Jerry?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I have people at home, so I'm keeping it on mute. But yes, it did. I was just wondering where it went to. And will there still need to be some vote to change a membership, or what happens? What happens now?
The executive committee will be empowered to do that, the same as they'll be empowered to name the members of the different committees. Why don't I go through and explain what the major changes are, and then if there's a discussion on those, then we can proceed. One of the first changes will be that
come on in, it's Susan. You gonna pause right now?
One of the major changes is that we have determined that the term of office for the president should be 2 years instead of a single year. And the reason for that is the past 3 presidents have indicated, actually the past 3 presidents plus Mandy have indicated that it really takes between 4 to 6 months to really get into the role of being president. And with our academic year, then that means the academic year is pretty well over before you actually feel comfortable in dealing with administration and in all the agenda items and really serving the constituency. And so that's the reason why it's been suggested that we change the term of office from president from a year to 2 years. The terms of office for the other officers, vice president, secretary, and the members at large will continue to be 1 year. Probably the major change in the committees, along with adding the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee, is we will have a faculty appeal board, which is separate and distinct from the Faculty Adjudication Committee. The Faculty Adjudication Committee is set up to hear faculty grievances and determine if indeed they need to be considered and are serious enough then for their adjudication process. The Faculty Appeal Board will also be an elected committee, but they will serve solely to determine administrative appeals. PS 104 has an appeals process, and PS 36 T and NT also have processes for appeals of administrative decisions regarding appointment or non-reappointment or consideration of an associate professor for full. those would then be heard by the Faculty Appeals Committee. And the reason for that is we currently don't have a mechanism where there's faculty input into the decisions made by administrators. The other big change in Committee on Committees is to dissolve the Committee on Committees. That committee has been having difficulties in filling the committee assignments for the past several years. The other reason for that is that now we have Susanna Knoll as our coordinator of the Faculty Senate, and we can keep a better track of who actually wants to serve or not, and actually relieve the faculty committee members on the Committee on Committees, who typically then have delegated their assignments specifically to a faculty member, and that faculty member's range and knowledge of who wants to serve is fairly limited. So we think that by dissolving that committee and actually then allowing, as in most organizations, the president through the executive committee to actually name people to the committee will have a broader breadth and will actually open up the committee membership to a wider range of faculty members on campus. The third major change is that we are forming, or at least it's proposed, because these are just draft changes, remember, that it's proposed that we have a council of advisors, one from the policy committee chairs to serve as a policy committee advisory committee. The second is that we have all of the standing committee chairs and the two past presidents to serve as an advisory committee to the executive committee when so desired. And again, we're hoping that both of those changes will result in an expansion of faculty governance throughout the colleges, schools, and other divisions. You'll note, if you've had an opportunity to read through the proposed changes, that the formal wording was for membership was from colleges and schools not within a college. And in between times, then we now have research units, Sea Grant and the Energy Center, that have representation, and we have certain schools that are obviously not within colleges. So we're trying to find a wording that adequately addresses that. We may default to the wording colleges, schools, and divisions as defined by the Office of Budget and Planning, because they're the ones who determine the census of who is eligible and how many senates on the 25 members per unit apportionment. They're the ones who determine that based upon faculty membership. I think those are probably the major changes that we have proposed. There's been a reorganization and alignment so that it flows a little bit more logically from topic to topic within the Constitution and bylaws. I guess I would ask any of the other members of the executive committee to jump in and make comments if they have those, or we can open the floor for any discussion or questions that you have.
Okay, are there any questions for Professor McMillan? All right, I'm wondering, Professor McMillan, if we might put together a quick slide with those points that you just raised so that individuals kind of go directly to those areas or comment on those major changes.
I don't see a difficulty in doing that at all.
All right, all right, fair enough. We will get that put together and have it sent out to the Senate.
We might point out that Susanna has put together a PowerPoint slide set that we will use at the next meeting to actually allow everybody to see what is actually being proposed versus what the clean copy per se will be. And we will distribute that as soon as I have a chance to look at it tomorrow and Wednesday. Then we'll distribute that well in advance of the next meeting. The other, I lost my train of thought. The other aspect is that these are still draft changes that are being proposed. And so Susanna and I and Mandy, all three of us will be glad to address any questions that you might have if you send those to us. She's given me a lot of credit on working on the draft changes. Quite honestly, the executive committee spent a lot of time this summer, and all I did was kind of facilitate the discussion and make sure that we had some kind of organization to our discussions so we didn't jump around from place to place. So I can't take nearly the credit that she tried to give me on these draft changes.
All right. So as Professor McMillan has summarized, all of the changes are in a PowerPoint that will be shared with the faculty senate. We'll also we'll put together a slide that sort of highlights those key major changes. And I think, Professor McMillan, we should also add the creation of the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee as one of the major changes. All right, and we will commence the discussion at our next meeting. It'll take a fair amount of time, so we'll keep the rest of the agenda relatively short. All right. Are there any additional questions or items for discussion? All right. If no one is opposed, and please let us know if you are, we will recess this meeting. This meeting is adjourned. Thank you all for coming. Be safe and well.